Welcome to a special edition of Opolis Public Radio. We usually dive into all things employment commons. We talk about all things future of work. And I'm happy to welcome back one of our favorite people in the ecosystem, Kevin Owocki from Gitcoin. We're doing a follow-up today on a previous conversation, actually, in how the partnership with Gitcoin as the market layer and Opolis as in the employment commons as the compliance layer are taking our relationship to the next step. So, hey, Kevin, good to see you.
Hey, John, thanks so much for having me on Boulder, Colorado.
We've already introduced you before, so I've got it in my cue cards here to reintroduce you. Bachelor's of Science in Computer Science, super meme nerd, 10 years of engineering leadership, and YOLO. But we're kind of away from the YOLO, right?
I think let's go with the Game of Thrones style intro. Ironborn, first of his name, Schiller of Colorado, getter of coins. Yes, I'm the founder of Gitcoin. That's all the introduction that we need, I think, to move on.
Everybody knows who you are. And you're shilling the Shapeshift mug there, I see.
Yeah, lots of Colorado companies on my desk right here.
Yeah, that's how we roll. I love that. So today's podcast is really just a follow-up on our previous conversation. So talking about the future of work, thinking about money Legos, project interoperability, collaboration as a means to the next frontier of capitalism, et cetera, et cetera. So the big news is really announcing the Opolis Employment Commons and Gitcoin partnership.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, like I said, I think that what you're doing is super complementary to what we're doing. We're kind of building a marketplace for software developers to earn, learn, and connect with each other. And one of the things that we've learned about building the internet of jobs, I think, is that people are going to need compliance to the legacy world and to the regular world. And one of the things I love about you, John, is that you'll do the hard work of figuring out all the compliance stuff, and I can just kind of send the developers over to you and know that they'll come back with insurance and retirement accounts and will be compliant with the laws in their local jurisdiction.
Which also protects you, right? Because the last thing that Gitcoin would ever want to do is somehow de facto become an employer. Like that would be of all these random digital nomads, that would be terrible for you.
Right. Yeah. So, I think that, it's sort of complementary, and it's interesting to sort of reason about how we reinvent jobs from first principles in the 21st century and make blockchain the payment rails for jobs, and hopefully create a better world for the world's workers by doing that.
The notion of self-sovereign employment just totally fits so well with the ecosystem that you guys have built, where it's, you've got people just kind of, really, I actually tell people this all the time in the normie space, like when they ask me about, is there a good example of the future of work as it relates to the actual market? Mm-hmm. And you got to go look at Gitcoin. Gitcoin is that flexible, fluid, high frequency labor, global on demand, potentially, at scale, it becomes really compelling. When you talk about just giving people that, I see Gitcoin as a massive de-risking platform for an individual's employment, right? So I don't have to put all my eggs in one basket. I can sort of do a bunch of different things and connect at Gitcoin, and then that flows down to knowing that my life is normal and safe through the employment commons, right? Through Opolis. So the pairing there makes ton of sense.
Yeah, we're kind of getting into theory of the firm kind of stuff, where basically, what is the overhead for you to jump from job to job, and what is the friction between doing those things? And my vision has always been that we're going to have a mesh network of jobs in the future that's kind of enmeshed in our communities, and we can work with each other peer to peer without having, it's important to sort of have that ability to work with other people. And I think it provides leverage to workers who are ascendant in the economy to basically be able to choose who they work with. And I think that there is an uncanny, I want to build more for utopia than dystopia. And I think that there is sort of a risk there that we need to get enough liquidity and high enough wages into this mesh network of jobs such that people can support a family and a mortgage and stuff like things that were part of the American dream in the 21st.
So it can replace the full-time job, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that where a lot of people get lost is sort of, what if it goes south? Like, what if people aren't making enough? And I think it's our job as the marketplace layer to design for high enough wages and enough reliability in the reputation layer that people can trust each other and build a better future in a positive some way. So that's kind of what we're focused on.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. I mean, anytime that I get in front of people and talk about the future of work, they're so ingrained in like what we've been conditioned to believe is work, like the job, the paycheck means to an end kind of deal, that replacing that with, 35 jobs in a year. And, it seems risky, but it's actually not. It's less risky as long as the market layer's there, the accessibility peer-to-peer is there, you don't have paywalls and other garbage in the way. And then if you have a means to manage and facilitate even 135 gigs. Like if you had a way to do that it doesn't matter how many there are, that it's all, automated and seamless and easy and using faster and better payment rails and optionality of currencies, but portability of my own employment. I mean, my God, they don't even know what to think. They're just like, what? Like they think future of work is like new collaboration tools for like what's the new version of Slack?
Yeah.
And it's
although I do love collaboration tools, but I do think that there's an opportunity. Like we're building a new foundation for value transfer with a blockchain based internet, and one of the things that I keep trying to shout from the rooftops is that you want blockchain to go mainstream. Well, then you got to go to people where their financial lives are, and for 90% of the world, their financial life is their job, not their investments in portfolio.
Right.
And so I think that
it's cash flow. It's weekly cash flow on jobs. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Internet of Jobs is what's after DeFi. I'm saying it loud. I'm saying it proud, and hopefully it ages well over the next 5 years. We'll see.
Well, I'm with you. As you know, I 100% believe that. In fact, I think that DeFi is as interesting as it isn't really a good onboarding ramp for average people. I think it's really interesting. I think it has the ability to upend a lot of existing financial systems or even create a whole new sector. But I think the Internet of Jobs is really where you start getting average people touching blockchains and crypto. I think that's where you actually get people.
Yeah. And I think that one of the things that Gitcoin kind of fell arse backwards into is a user base that is going to understand how to install MetaMask, how to broadcast a transaction. And so, we're sort of starting with software engineers inventing these rails. And the vision is to eventually expand out into other digital creatives, project managers, marketers, writers, stuff like that. And then eventually, the late adopters can come in, the people who are less technically savvy once the rails are built out. But starting with software engineers means that we just have a level of technical competence, and we can build actual liquidity into these systems before I think, non-sophisticated, or sorry, I shouldn't say non-sophisticated, I should say non-technical people.
Yeah, or just people that aren't familiar with the under the hood stuff. It's the next sort of circle of people bringing them in. So, okay, so let's talk about the work rewards program. So I don't know if you knew this, but we've actually named the token Work.
I love that. That's some beachfront real estate you got there in the token symbol. The token symbol right there.
Yeah. So the Work token is a rewards token, as you know, that the way that we've organized ourselves is really a patronage reward for being a member of the cooperative, the coalition, right, around creating self-sovereign employment, right? So the whole purpose of the Opolis Employment Commons is to create self-sovereign employment for the independent worker. Mm-hmm. And the rewards come to people for contributing value to the ecosystem, as you know. Mm-hmm. So, that we're on the door. We've created a few memes together before, right? You famously tweeted, or infamously, I don't know how famous the tweet actually is, but you created the Biddle meme, right? And then we just made it famous at ETHDenver in 2018. Mm-hmm. And then I don't know how many people actually know that. Like, I think there was actually somebody that tried to say that they tweeted it before you, but I don't remember if there was actually anybody that did.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't put a ton of stake into being an early adopter of Biddle. I think that, if on my tombstone one day, the highest achievement is creator of a meme, then, I've probably failed at the rest of the Gitcoin vision. But
all I'm saying is you're good at it, man. Like you're good at the memes. You're a meme king in some way.
The key is to take my software engineer brain down from 110 IQ to 70 IQ when you're making a meme, I think. But Show Colorado, I think, is the one that we're most proud of on Opolis Public Radio and Gitcoin. I can't speak for y'all, but I just think
we love Show Colorado. That's a good one. So the new one though is payroll mining, right? So it's maybe less a meme and more literal, but like I think the concept of it's very memeable. Mm-hmm. So payroll mining. Payroll mining, for those that don't know, is as the total payroll volume of the employment commons grows, right? So this means the addition of members for their self-sovereign employment where they receive payroll benefits and shared services that bridge their worlds, right, between Web 2 and Web 3. There are blocks mined, right? So once we hit those thresholds, a block is mined of work rewards, and then they're distributed to people participating in the ecosystem. One is for actual being an employee member. So anybody who has their employment with the commons is being rewarded for that consumption, right? Phase 1. Phase 2 is referrals. And this is the big one. And this is where the coalition comes in. So anybody who's a non-employee member, Gitcoin being included, would be termed a coalition member. And that's where projects, individuals, people globally can participate in helping promote this effort of self-sovereign employment, but they don't actually have to be members themselves, right? They can refer people. So tell us how this sort of fits into the Gitcoin and why this is something that you guys are interested in doing.
Well, we're not interested in running any payroll, and I think the fact that y'all have it sort of like out of the box is really a great thing. And one of the things I think that you and I have talked about a little bit when we're just jamming is how extractive the existing intermediaries that are out there that run payroll are, and the reason that those payroll providers can be so extractive is because they've got the network effect. They've got a lot of the world's workers out there. And so there's sort of not a duopoly. I forget what the name is in economics when there's only 4 or 5 different players. But what I think is cool is that you're sort of building something that's the opposite of that. That's going to be more community oriented, and you're bootstrapping the network effects of it with payroll mining. And so I think it's really cool to play a small part into shilling that to the world. And I really hope that the flywheel gets spinning and we can build a less extractive payroll systems for the world. And that will just, that would enable both of our visions of more fluidity of jobs and building the internet of jobs. So it's cool to be able to announce to do this partnership together. Yeah,
I think it's really cool. And I think you're totally right. I mean, in terms of the life cycle, if you will, or the supply chain of work, the payroll providers is really where everything happens, right? Because it's sticky. Everything else is kind of optional up to that point. But then you get to the payroll compliance, withholdings, tax payments, all this stuff that has to go on, employer record stuff. Like that's the stuff that they know that they can be over extractive because it's not so easy just to go down the street. And actually our membership steward, Josh Lapidus, I think he's here. Hey Josh, he said it's a cartel, and it kind of is. I mean, these payroll companies have been around forever, and it's unbelievably inefficient how they operate. But they have no motivation to do anything different because they're crushing it. They're making so much money.
Yeah,
and it's kind of sad. So I do agree that creating a member owned and community owned mechanism for global payroll. I mean, we refer to it as a quasi public utility, right? I mean, that's how I see it. I mean, if it ends up being profitable, the community benefits, but it's just a necessary sort of thing that we all have to do that nobody really wants to deal with, to your point.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that, my sort of grand vision for what we're doing in this space is we're reinventing anything that relies on value transfer. The Internet of Information changed everything that relies on information in society because now computers can send information across the network. So newspapers, entertainment, politics, media, all changed because of the internet. And now we're doing the same thing with computer networks that can transfer value. And so anything that relies on value transfer in society could be rewritten from first principles in the blockchain-based internet. And all these dinosaurs, just like all these newspapers that sort of had a moat because no one else could publish blogs before the internet, kind of got decimated by the internet. I think there's an analogous thing that's going to happen with all of these dinosaurs that have been building the rails for work in the industrial age are now moving over into the information age. And it's just such a market that's ripe for disruption. And, I think it's kind of fun to think about from first principles, what's going to change because of the internet of value. Obviously, investments and things like that are going to change, but insurance, jobs, payroll, stuff like that are all going to be, they all rely on value transfer. And so, stepping into that design space of what is this internet of jobs going to look like is a really exciting thing to me.
Well, I think it's personally the most exciting thing. I mean, when you look at how many hours we spend in work and how many people are dissatisfied in what they do, like 70% of the U.S. labor force are stuck in jobs that they don't like.
Yeah.
Reinventing the rails and how we transfer value and how we even add value, contribute value, consume work, access work. Like, I mean, shoot, I've been in the HR tech space for almost 20 years. We've been talking about on-demand labor for 20 years. There's no such thing as on-demand right now. Everything is like paywalled and, it's messy to try to connect with people because everyone wants to kind of get their cut on everything. And there's so many misaligned incentives with these old industrial age companies that just innovator's dilemma is just the tip of the iceberg when you think about like the problems that these people have. It's really the sleeping giant issues is like, once these things get redefined, it's going to be an avalanche of change and quite frankly, productivity, in my opinion, when people are able to align their attention with work that's interesting to them on demand in the ether space and get paid and have all of that happening like that, dude, it's going to be a completely different world.
Yeah, I'm really, what I've started to set my sights on is decentralized reputation. And so basically, how do we route the right work to the right people is sort of a question that I'm starting to worry about. And it's a different part of the stack than what Opolis is working on. But we've got 70,000 software developers on Gitcoin right now, and routing the right task to the right worker is important because I like to say this thing about LinkedIn recruiters, like the meme format is no one. Absolutely no one says anything, and then a LinkedIn recruiter slides into your inbox and they say, hey, you'd be a perfect fit for a mid-level PHP engineer position in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I just think it's like every engineer has a story about recruiter spam and how the wrong tasks are getting routed to them. And so if we can solve the decentralized reputation problem and route the right tasks to the right people, that's a problem that I'm increasingly passionate about, not only because it's an interesting intellectual exercise, how do we store these people's reputation in a decentralized way where they self-sovereign own it, but also because we have 70K developers in the Gitcoin network and it's a very tangible problem for us right now. So hopefully I'll be sending more workers with more tasks that resemble things they want to do into the Opolis layer over the next few years.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's a really important point that you bring up about, just the metadata and qualifications, reputation around talent. The one thing that I'll point out, it's interesting because there have been some academic efforts to standardize skill sets and the quantification of skill sets. But the open industry has never been incentivized to adopt it because one of their sort of not overly talked about benefits is actually information asymmetry. Like these intermediaries thrive on inefficiency. So if you actually implemented a standard information layer, they would no longer have their competitive advantage to kind of extract as much value as they do. So it's kind of an interest with the existing players. There's not a lot of incentive. Like the LinkedIn thing is classic. That's so cliche. It's terrible. But like, I do agree that there's a need to figure out how to objectify skills evaluation in a trustless way, right? Like how do we actually evaluate somebody's skills so that me looking at somebody's, if myself or even an automation tool was going to look at matching the right task with the right talent, like there's got to be a way to do that. I mean, that I find that whole topic incredibly fascinating. I'm not sure exactly how to unpack it, but maybe that's our next episode, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll say that I'm spending a lot of time thinking about it. And I also think that this kind of dovetails into, if everyone's a knowledge worker, then this sort of dovetails into education. So basically, you know, how do you identify a pocket of work that is in demand and people that maybe aren't completely a match for that work, but like with a little bit of retraining, they could be a fit for that. So like the education is the delta in the n-dimensional space between what is someone's skills and what could be someone's skills. I guess that's a very mathy way of saying it, but you know, I think that education is and job training is sort of a part of the stack that's going to be a part of it as well. So I will solve these problems, John, and I will route the workers to you for payroll if you just take care of all the compliance for me. That's all I want out of.
Well, we're going to get that all. There. We're going to get that all going, and I'm happy to contribute to solving some of these problems too. But yeah, we'll take care of all the compliance stuff. Don't worry about that.
For sure.
Okay, cool. So let's. We've got a few minutes left here, and we're going to be a little bit shorter than the typical episode. But any immediate predictions for the next 12 months for 2021 when it comes to future of work, money Legos? Like, what are the kind of next mover things that you think are going to happen this year?
Right. Number will go up. Number will go down.
Go up. Number go up. Number go down.
I've tried to hit all of my predictions by saying the number will go up or go down, and that way I was always right. Because on Twitter, what you can do is you can make a prediction, and then if it doesn't come true, you just delete the tweet. But this Opolis Public Radio will be preserved forever. No, I guess like the one like shot I will take is that the Internet of Jobs is what comes after DeFi, and I think many will try, only few will succeed. And my hope is that we're going to build a more utopian workforce than what existed in the industrial age, our aging industrial infrastructure. And so what I'm really, I guess another prediction that I'll make is that our Internet of Jobs will be intertwined with communities. So basically, you know, my first job out of school was like very corporate, and like I had a 2-week onboarding and I had a paycheck and everything like that. I think Gen Z is there's going to be a TikTok of jobs. Like you're just going to roll into a meetup and someone will hire you for a task, and then maybe that'll turn into another engagement from there. And I think that whatever the fabric of jobs is going to be in the 21st century is going to be digitally native, but it's going to be baked into our community infrastructure as well. And so when the pandemic is over and I can finally go back to the Boulder blockchain meetup, which you need to come to, John, I'm really excited to kind of see how do we bake in tokenized incentives into our local communities and hopefully do good and make our community stronger by weaving this fabric together.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's the fluidity of jobs is the key, but it's at the volume where you could sustain yourself, right? So like gig work in its current form doesn't replace a full-time job. It's creating the network effect and sort of like inertia to be able to replace that. And I do agree. I think it goes one step later. I think, or deeper even. It might even be, you know, digital communities. Like, you know, the notion of DAOs. Like you could be a member of 15 DAOs and 12 of them might be pretty quiet, but then boom, 3 of them are busy, and then I'm busy with those, and then 2 more get busy, and it's just this constant sort of flow of on demand.
Yeah. Seasonality is interesting. Like I know you have that kind of with ETHDenver, where it's like every February it seems like there's an army of people at the sports castle helping you with that. And so yeah, I mean, maybe not all of them are just like full-time work. Maybe they're a little bit more seasonal or have some sort of quarterly rhythm.
Yeah, and but then creating the ability for people to fluidly find the work as, you know, onboard and offboard, like as one is ending, it's sort of the dream of a consultant, right? It's sort of being my own temporary labor without needing a staffing company. It's leading the life that I want to live, from where, with whom, and how much I choose. You know, it really, the word that I like is the egalitarian work future, right? It's creating the infrastructures and systems that people get to sort of more, they get to choose, and they have the tool sets available, and they have everything around them. Even educational opportunities. If I'm sort of 80% close on being able to be a good fit for these roles, I can plug in, polish up, and then be qualified and get hired, like, you know, seamlessly. So the future of egalitarian work is sort of the thing that I I use as a description quite a bit.
Yeah. I like that. I like that framing. I think that like it's important to know who you're designing for when you're building this, because for people who don't have a lot of financial commitments or are just starting out on their career, it's very important to be able to try a lot of things, right? And to just like casually work together. But I'm 36 and I have a mortgage and 2 kids to support, and so for me, not switching jobs a lot is a feature because I need stability in order to support my family. And so I think it's really important to know which use case that you're designing for. And I just, for anyone who's out there listening, I think it's really important that we also design a segment of jobs where stability and like long-term relationships is a part of the fabric as well. And the sort of more casual stuff can act as a feeder, like a try before you buy feeder into those kind of relationships. So my vision is that the gig economy is not the future of work. The gig economy is just one part of the internet of jobs that we're building. And I think that stability is really important for people who are in the stage of life that I'm in. And I just want people to know that that's being designed as well in this ecosystem.
I do agree that the gig economy is just part of the overall fabric, but that is what makes it egalitarian. People have the choice. See, the thing that we've done through the industrial age is we've sort of conditioned people to think that the only way to work is to do a full-time job, 40 hours a week. And some people are going to want that. That's fine. Like, let them do it. Let them just have that sort of the monogamy of work, right? Let them do that. But there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff in between that in this sort of really sort of version 1 of gig economy, right? And there's going to be all sorts of different varieties in between with the safety and security rails. Right. So that's the major thing that's missing today from anything gig economy or solopreneur is that sort of stability rails. Solve the compliance and stability rails, plus giving people more higher frequency access to work opportunities in a live environment on demand, and you completely change the fabric of everything. So, all right, ETHDenver, what's Gitcoin's involvement this year? What are you guys up to? What are you guys going to be showcasing, talking about? Who from your team's coming that everybody can look out for? And you want to tell them anything about the video game environment?
Yeah, I'm really excited to participate in my first virtual ETHDenver. I've been at ETHDenver ever since John put it together, and in celebration of community and rainbows and unicorns. And I think you're really doing a great job of legitimizing the blockchain space in Colorado. So I thank you for that. I will be giving a talk about what I call the quadratic lands. It's basically a world in which you can make a living working off of quadratic subsidies with Gitcoin grants. And, what are the foundational pillars of that? What does it mean for the future of employment are sort of some of the themes of my talk. So I will be there in both presentation mode and also hanging out in VR. So looking forward to donning my virtual Bufficorn outfit and dancing around the virtual sports castle. But yeah, I'm really keen to see what the first virtual ETHDenver is like, John. It's going to be cool.
Yeah, Justin and I just got out of the space right before this, and I mean it's going to be insane. Like the game, the gamification components, like all the different elements of just immersion and experience and serendipity and randomness, and I mean we've literally recreated like what it kind of feels like to be at ETHDenver in some ways. I mean it's certainly not a replacement for being in person, but when you talk about the things that we've seen in 2020 or just the experiments that have happened, I mean it's going to be insanely cool. Yeah. So that's February 5th through 12th in case those listening don't know, and you can apply to ETHDenver.com/apply, and it's gonna be a freaking good time. Hey, we just got RAC confirmed to do a set at the closing.
Yeah, he's great and obviously a huge influence in the blockchain space. But I still think your magnum opus is getting 2 governors on stage with Vitalik. I don't know how you're gonna one up that this year.
One up that, yeah. No, having Governor Gordon and Governor Polis with Vitalik reading "B is for Bufficorn: A Whimsical Journey Through Cryptoland" with literally a Bufficorn on main stage live streamed, like that's like mic drop time. Like I don't know, that was pretty fun. So we'll see if we outdo it. I don't know. We're just trying to have a fun event and make sure that everybody has a good time. So, well, Kevin, thank you as always for everything. Thank you for everybody else joining this episode of Opolis Public Radio. Remember to subscribe to Opolis's YouTube channel and check out Gitcoin social media assets. They got one of the best Twitter games in town. If you have any questions about the audio version, you can subscribe to your local podcast distribution method and find it there. If you're a freelancer, solopreneur, or independent worker of any sort, come check out the employment solutions at opolis.co. That's opolis.co. And we'll see you at the Employment Commons later on. Thanks, everybody. Take care.